and gentlemen, welcome to Wrestling Art with Chris Things.
Ray! Do the hammerlock! I do the hammerlock! Ray! Do the hammerlock, you turkey necks! Yeah, do the hammerlock! I do the hammerlock!
Alright, ladies and gents, welcome to what I believe is episode 10. Oh my gosh, we're into double digits of Wrestling Art with Chris Things. I am Chris Things, your host this week and every week, and this is our Match of the Week edition of the show, where I picked what ended up being my favourite match that I happened to watch that week, and I did an art of it, and we nerd out about it, and we talk about it, both the match and the art, our general lives, and this week I'm quite enthused because we have a match that is one of my all-time favorites that I happened to watch because my dear friend Bradley was having a birthday celebrations where he decided he'd invite his friends over and we'd watch some of his favorite matches. And then this was on the list, and my gosh, man, I'll talk about it more. I actually have Bradley as the guest for this week's chat. I think that's quite fitting, all things considered. But yeah, we'll talk a bit more about that later on. But very, very fun one there. If you haven't already, please go out of your way to watch KENTA versus Low Ki from Ring of Honor Final Battle. Just an amazing match, and I feel like it'll make it a lot more fun for you to then listen to this chat, because you can be geeking out with us. I think that's a good thing. So we got that coming up shortly. I'll throw to Chris in the I'm gonna be honest, it's just me sitting here in front of my computer, but anyway, I'll do that later. But this is a little bit where I talk about what I've had going on this week. So this week we've had our 2 episodes. Had that amazing chat with Jonathan McBurney that I'm still so tickled about. That was so much fun. You could probably tell in my voice I was just had such a great time nerding out about this really specific niche thing that is wrestling art. Basically what this whole podcast is meant to be. So I thought that was such a great time. So I've turned it around, done another podcast today. That's what I do here. I'm about putting in that work. Hope you guys are enjoying. So this week, as I mentioned last time, it's been sort of that Christmas kind of period. So I've still been doing some stuff. I had that fantastic Christmas art exhibition experience that I spoke about on the last one. Holy dooly. I will be posting that sweet El Perico Guapito piece for you very soon. But other than that, I haven't got to tell you about this other rad thing that I did. I actually got to do the artwork, the faux album artwork, an amazing concept that was brought to me by the very talented video art wrestling highlight video dude IQ Wrestler. They approached me with a fantastic idea of, hey, I'm doing a Terry Funk highlight video. As part of it, I think for the cover image, we'll do like a bit of a faux Conrad Twitty album cover, but like replace him with like Terry Funk from that Forever, the amazing all-time great forever promo of his one of his first retirements in All Japan Pro Wrestling. As soon as he mentioned this, I'm like, I'm so bloody down for this. I cannot imagine anything more up my alley. I assume your listeners, especially if you listen to our episode on the first match of the week that we covered with Terry and Dory against Abdullah the Butcher and the Sheik. You guys know how much the deep love that I have for Terry Funk. So anything that I could do there, he's for Terry, I'm doing it. So I put together this illustration in the past week, finished that up, and we even in addition to that, to do a bit of a special thing, we've put up a print that is available now on christhings.com.au of this faux album cover. Titled The High Priest of Pro Wrestling, Terry Funk. And I did this so you can purchase this faux album cover in your traditional 7-inch for your smaller kind of singles and stuff. You can get the in-between size of the 10-inch, or you can get your full 12-inch full-sized edition of that print that I think is going to look so sick framed on anyone's wall. So if you like Terry Funk, if you like Conrad Twitty, I don't think that part of it's essential. But yeah, that was just so fun. I'd get on that if you want. But yeah, that was just a joy to do, and it's got such a great reaction too. So I don't know what that means. Whether I should do more Terry stuff. I don't think there's any question there of whether I'll be doing more Terry stuff. There's definitely more Terry Funk loving tributes coming to you in the near future. But be sure to check out IQ Wrestler released their teaser of this full Terry Funk highlight video, so where you can actually see the album artwork come up, and it's just such a tremendous little video. So check out that the shorter version. They've got it up now. So if you check out IQ Wrestler on Twitter, that's probably the best place to find it. They got it on their Vimeo page, and then we will also be having the full cut version that they'll be releasing in the near future too. So I'll keep you posted on that. But in the meantime, jump on and have a gander at that faux album artwork that I put together on christhings.com.au. All right, but I think that's about enough of what I've been doing this week. I think it's time for us to talk about the perfect professional wrestling match that was KENTA versus Low-Ki. All right, over to you, Chris. Okay, here we go. I'm very excited about this one, just between you and me, listeners, but I have a gentleman on the line that is formerly the sensation of the nation, the Pearl of the Orient, man known to many feared opponents as Soul, but known to me as my dear friend Bradley. Welcome to the show, Brad.
Thank you, Chris. How are you this morning?
I'm good. I just got the match of the week up of this past week. We had this episode delayed slightly because of the artist interview thing, and then just some of the Christmas stuff. So thrown a little bit of things into the works, but good. Are you still enjoying your holidays?
Absolutely. I'm a teacher, so I'm on holidays for next month.
Amazing.
I'm not going back to work anytime soon. But in terms of the people waiting a bit longer, like it's good things. You good things come to those who wait. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Are you still in visiting family down in northern New South Wales, I believe? No, we were just going for a holiday thing for a few days, so I'm back home.
Oh, how lovely. How lovely. Have you been watching much of the wrestles of late?
No, I was watching some YouTube videos about Pride instead. I'm just like, I think I just like the fake fighting better than this.
Wait. So what got you down the rabbit hole of watching videos about Pride?
I think I watched some other video where they recommended the channel, so I'm like, oh, and the first video I watched was about Punk's UFC thing, and then I went on to the straight MMA videos video after that, and it's this big long like 3 hour video. So I've just been sort of working through that.
Ooh. So is this sort of like one of those things where it talks about like the history and the weird behind the scenes stories and all that kind of stuff?
Yep, that's it.
Oh my gosh, that sounds way up my alley. Damn. I used to love Pride.
Yeah, me too. I was like early on. I was like, oh, the Sakuraba and like the exhibition-y matches where they've just got a giant guy and a little guy, and you're just like, there's no weight classes. Let's just put on a weird show.
Yeah, just so many steroids, all of the production values.
Yeah, that's one of the things the video is pointing out, is that it introduces like a new guy that they're talking about, and it's like, and this guy is just like a steroid factory. There was a lot of them, a lot of just ridiculously massive guys, because they didn't have testing in Pride. They didn't check any of that.
No, they basically gave you a little home kit to get you going on steroids, like before you entered competition. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, there were body guys there, like Vince. You know, they you got a better show if everyone's just juiced out of their mind.
Yeah, for sure. And also, I love the fact that it was all just like basically thinly veiled, run by the Yakuza.
Yeah, that they talk about that in the video as well. I'm like, oh, there you go. I was very much in control of that whole thing.
Yeah, I was a big fan. My official favorite of that era was the axe murder of Vanderlei Silva.
You know what? They talked about him, and when they've got the video of him on the screen relating to the match we're going to talk about this week, I'm just like, low key looks like a smaller Vanderlei Silva.
That is so funny that you say that. So again, like relating to this match we're talking about this week, this classic between KENTA and Loki. When I was watching this match, in fact, there was like so many little things where I was like, I really get Vanderlei Silva vibes out of this like prime era Loki.
Yeah, I think his face has got similar sort of features, and he's a hard kicking dude. So yeah, it lines up.
Yeah, just like a little ball of fucking fury in the same way.
He's a mad little man.
Yeah, I
didn't say that. He's not a little man. He's a terrifying man. I don't want to sound dismissive towards Loki at all.
Brad, might I say that it is not about the size of the dog in the fight, but the size of the fight he will bring.
Yeah, Loki brings a lot of fight.
I really should have said that in more of a gruff, like low bass voice, but you know, man, I just adore Loki so much. I think there was like a weird time in wrestling that happened where people stopped liking Loki. I mean, sure, like the COVID anti-vaxxer stuff, yeah, all right, but like more so, it seemed like there was a bit where, like, somehow I think this was where I kind of fell out of the wrestling, like, common kind of perception. Like, I remember, especially watching this kind of era of wrestling, right? It's that classic era of like mid-2000s ROH. It was like, we used to just love seeing like the really stiff shit, like the really like guys like would kick the fuck out of one another. And basically the harder guys went, the better it was. And it was just the best thing in the world. Between like Joe and Loki and like Super Dragon and all that kind of stuff. And then something happened where it seemed like the wrestling fans changed recently. And it was like, no, we don't like that anymore. We like watching guys that are safe. And these guys are dangerous. And we don't like watching dangerous guys. And I'm like, what? Why would that matter to a wrestling fan? You're just watching it. You're not in the ring.
I sympathize a bit with that. I don't like seeing people get hurt, says the fan of pro wrestling and pride. But
We're just talking about Pendley Silver and soccer kicks.
but I feel like with these guys back then, like a lot of it was like hit really hard, which that's not necessarily unsafe. It's painful the next day and at the time, but it's not like it's unsafe. Like it's dropping people on their heads is unsafe. Like that's where people get like permanent hurt.
Yeah.
But like getting a really hard kick to the chest, unpleasant at the time, but not unsafe.
Yeah, I guess more the stuff of this that sort of stands out to me a bit more is like the kicks to the head. And I guess that is one thing to be said that's fair in I mean, it's weird to say, like, you know, everything that's come out with concussions and CTE and everything like that thereafter. At the same time, if we transport ourselves back to 2005, it's not like people thought getting kicked in the head wouldn't be bad for you ultimately long term. But I guess it just got a bit more obvious or overt, right?
Yeah, well, they could test better for it and that sort of thing. But to bring that back to this match, which we haven't really started talking about, but it's like one of the things I thought about while watching it is because when I went to search for it again so I could rewatch it, and there's like I searched low key, and it's got clips of like low key kicking young boys real hard, or shoot kicking Chris Hero in the face. These are the things that came up first instead of the match I wanted to watch. Oh. And I'm like,
that Hero match, by the way, from is that the PWG one?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
that is a bloody tremendous match. That was one of the matches from that Phil Schneider picked for the original Way of the Blade book.
Okay.
And that was just a delight to watch for sure. So another classic there.
But yeah, with that, then like rewatching this match was like, I feel like Loki's got to he's showing a bit more respect to KENTA than he might have to some of these other people, just because like knowing KENTA will dish it straight back. They're both going to kick each other in the head if the other one gets out of line.
Yeah.
So like the kicks to the head were maybe a more sensible or considered kick to the head rather than just.
I mean, I definitely didn't feel like he went like light on him in any sense.
No.
Like he'll take it out hard on these, dudes who can't fight back, but then he'll go like real, easy on a dude like KENTA. Like I think he still went hard, but a bit more considered, I would feel.
Yeah. Yeah. But no taking advantage of KENTA.
I mean, the thing with KENTA though as well, people, and I think we said this when we watched this match originally, KENTA at that time was known as being this vociferous little dickhead.
Yeah.
Like his main stuff is like you watch those matches of like him like bowing up to Kobashi or to Misawa back in the day, or it's like a awesome one with him against Tenryu during this sort of era of Noah. And it's basically just like him having the temerity to just be such a little asshole, and then he generally would sort of get his ass handed to him as a result. But it would never stop him from showing those asshole tendencies.
Yeah, like when I'm watching this match, I'm just like they're both like very tough, kicky, like angry guys, but KENTA is definitely this just more of a dickhead character, and it's delightful. Just like I mentioned when we were watching it, but like his move where he does the springboard over the ropes and just like the back kick to the head. I was like, I hope he does that, because it had been a while since I watched the match. And then when he did it, I'm like, yeah, this just, it's like, it's not the big kick, it's not the big high spot, it's just that KENTA being a dickhead. And I'm like, I love it so much.
And I think that is really the stuff that originally like got KENTA over both like to a Japanese audience, like what we're saying about sort of that real little dickhead kind of like vibe, but then also to like an American audience, because this is sort of when he's like well into that real kind of American ROH, like he's got quite a few shows under his belt, and the fans like really he's won them over already kind of thing. And I think the stuff that really won them over was that kind of thing, like that amazing spot where he jumps over, teases he's going to do like a big stomp or something, and then just this little asshole kick to the face.
Yeah.
So
Good stuff.
good. But before we get too much into the match,
Yes.
bringing back to what you were saying about, the head kicks and things like that. I did want to tell our listeners a little story, regale them with a story, because as I mentioned in the intro, you were once an awesome Brisbane-based professional wrestler, and I would say one of the few guys from the Brisbane wrestling scene back in the day when we were both doing it, that made people be like, oh shit, Australian wrestling can actually be good. And who a lot of people would look up to. So I wanted to put you over in that sense. But
Thank you, buddy.
So in that vein, there was one time we may have done it more, but I distinctly remember us getting to wrestle like one singles match.
Mm-hmm.
So this was when I was a plucky young baby face who had a lot of dumb ideas, but was just trying to, do all of the things without any concern for my safety, which ultimately probably is what led to me having too many concussions to wrestle anymore. However, when we wrestled, I remember being so nervous because I looked up to you so much. You were the big kicky kind of dude, just had that real like badass kind of like aura, and like had those rad like work rate kind of style matches that not everyone could do at that time. So I wanted to make sure that I could be up to scruff as best I could. And I remember when we were like putting the match together, I'm not sure if you recall this, but I remember just thinking, all right, what can I do with like Brad's rad kicks to be like the most badass looking kind of thing. And so, as like a guy who's less experienced, you sort of give some suggestions or whatever. One of them was for the going into the finish or the finishing sequence. So as a plucky young baby face, I did that kind of, generic baby face shit, like a big crossbody off the top, all that kind of stuff. And I remember having the idea of like, it would be so sick if I can do like right near the finish, like my last sort of big, move, I could go for like a big crossbody off the top. And then Brad just like catches me midair with like a real hard, like big kick to the face.
I don't remember, but this sounds like me.
And then I distinctly remember telling you that. And then your response was just like, no, we're not going to do that. That would really hurt.
See, I don't want people to get hurt.
So ultimately, I feel like I wanted to give you a little thank you, both from me, also probably from my current partner, Kaylin, for likely preventing me from getting one more concussion than I would ultimately get for the rest of my wrestling days.
You see, and the thing is, you say, oh, like, not look up to me, but like consider me this badass. It's like because I was a veteran in the company with my like 2 years of experience. That was because that's the level of Brisbane wrestling was. It's like more than just a like straight out of training rookie. That's top guy. Like, okay.
Nothing sums up Brisbane wrestling better than that, hey?
Yeah.
And also, I mean, this sort of makes a lot of sense in tying it back for our listeners for the reason why, I had to get you on the show to talk about this match. Because in addition to, as I said in my write-up for the match, I actually rewatched this because, we were hanging out on your birthday and we were watching a bunch of your favorite wrestling matches, this being one of them. And I always, loved this match as an all-time favorite. And then you rewatch it, and sometimes these matches kind of don't live up to that rosy version of it in your head. But this one, if anything, like over-delivered. But like in us watching that match, like you said that like both of these kind of guys between like Loki and Kenta basically sort of like created your whole approach and style of what you did back in the day in wrestling.
Yeah, like that was my character, was just hard kicks guy, and which is like didn't have the good dickheadness of Kenta. I didn't have necessarily the full aggression of a Loki, but the hard kicks. That's what I took.
Yeah, I mean that's an important thing. I assumed you, similar to like Kenta, had some sort of kicky martial arts experience prior to wrestling?
Yeah, I'd done Taekwondo for a while, so like I knew I could do the kicks. So I'm like, yes, I'll do the kicks. So that's where the ring name came from. That Seoul is like capital of South Korea. It feels very cringy for it to have been Seoul now, but that's what it was when I made up my name in my early 20s. But yeah, because that's capital of South Korea, which is where Taekwondo comes from. So I'm like, yeah, I'm going to be a kicks guy. So I'm going to lean into that.
Why not? Makes a lot of sense. Might I say the Pearl of the Orient nickname was like my favorite thing, and still is possibly my favorite Australian professional wrestling moniker.
Yep. I'm not going to comment too much on that, and I love it. But I think Mr. J came up with that, and I love Mr. J, so it's fine.
Man, that's a good one to bring up. Mr. J, for our listeners, was a real sort of big, significant name in the Queensland wrestling scene. Both as a commentator, but it did a lot of other stuff. But his art, man, is like quite widely known. Like he's done rad stuff for Pro Wrestling Illustrated and like all sorts of shit. I would love to get Mr. J on the show to talk about the wrestling art at some point in the future.
Yeah, that'd be a pretty good for like the artist series. Like, yeah, Mr. J would be a great one.
Yeah, for sure. And all of his rad knowledge of like New Zealand and Australian wrestling history, I think that'd be really cool too. But yeah, getting back to the main point, did you, so with the Taekwondo, so before I got into wrestling, had a bit of like a jiu-jitsu background, but I never really like did anything with it. And if anything, it probably made certain stuff more difficult to kind of like relearn. Sort of a bit of a regret I maybe didn't do more of that sort of side of it. But for you, did the Taekwondo training, you said it like you just got you to do the kicks. Was there a part of like the relearning of the kicks to sort of not kill people as much? Or was it just kind of like what you knew from like exhibition kind of stuff?
Well, I've never done any exhibition stuff for Taekwondo, but I think there was like, yeah, there's relearning because wrestling, like a super kick isn't a thing you do in Taekwondo, but you've got the flexibility and the sort of the knowing how to move your body in ways to get your legs up there. So I think it helped more than sort of was a big issue for needing to relearn anything. It's just gave that good foundation.
Cool. That makes sense. I feel like I want to say Nakajima also has a Taekwondo background. I may be getting that wrong. But yeah, I guess it definitely works well. But so on to the match. So for our listeners, we've talked a little bit about it, but as an official intro. So this one actually took place at Final Battle. Originally, when we were talking about it, I remember thinking for some reason it was on one of the nights of the Glory by Honor doubleheader.
Yeah, I went back and looked that up, and it's like, no, Kenta wasn't there at all.
Yeah, no, I think that was like Misawa tagging with someone. I don't
Kabashi or Misawa, which I might think the wrong one.
One of those two. Either way. So it wasn't that one, but this did take place on the 2005 Final Battle. One of the Final Battles that took place in Edison, New Jersey. That I don't remember. I think that might have been the only Jersey-based Final Battle that they did before it sort of found its home more in like the New York kind of tradition market of all those awesome ones at the Manhattan Center and the Hammerstein Ballroom on from that. But at the prestigious Inman Sports Club on December 17th, 2005. And another interesting part of this was it was for the Noah's GHC Junior Heavyweight Championship, which Kenta was champion at the time. And I don't know whether this is true or not, but I listened to a shoot interview with somebody who said that Gabe Sapolsky came up to them while they were watching this match at the curtain, and he said to them, "Hey, do you know I actually don't know who's going to go over in this match or what the finish is?" In theory, because I guess it was, for Noah's title, and it was like a Noah call, and apparently he said he like didn't want to know or whatever. But that, I don't know. That sounds a little bit. What do you think of this?
Yeah, that sounds like I could see like the Noah guys being the ones who make the choice, but for him to not know, like, if Key's going over, he needs to know that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I mean, it makes for a good story. It was Sal Renoro, by the way. I'm just remembering now who said this in a little interview. Who was a really fun name back in the day in ROH, but he said he would always be at the front of the curtain to watch any match, and he was just like such a mark getting to see this one. And apparently Gabe came up to him and they watched it together, and that's what he told him.
Like, look, sure, why not? It doesn't matter at this point, so go with the story. The story's more fun.
Yeah, for sure. But so at this point, I think in ROH history, we have to sort of like paint the picture a little bit of Low-Ki being just the ultimate badass of the company. He sort of was like the first ROH champion, kind of the real like most over babyface you could possibly imagine. Then we had the big bit of Xavier getting the upset win over him and taking the belt. I remember at that time a lot of people were very upset about that, but I think in hindsight Xavier's run was actually like pretty good and probably good for the time because it set the table for. Did Joe win it off of Xavier?
Yeah. Joe was third, and then he had that long run. Yeah,
and then Low-Ki, I guess, a little bit before this turned heel with the formation of the Rottweilers. Because I'm pretty sure this is where we had Julius Smokes with Low-Ki and Homicide and the Havana Pitbulls of Rocky and Ricky Reyes, right?
Yeah, that's peak Low-Ki for me. I loved his Gangster Key look.
Oh, with the sweet like bandana like over one of the eyes.
Yep, and like the one pant leg rolled up. I don't know what it is, but it looks cool, and Low-Ki looks cool rocking it.
So good. And then, as we were saying, KENTA came in and just instantly built up this rep of having all these like badass matches and won the crowd over instantly. So part of this match, I think you can feel it on the entrances and like getting into the like just the ring introductions and stuff on this match. It had that like real vibe of like everyone being like, holy fuck, we're gonna see something magical here. It's like the whole, I don't know, indomitable force versus the movable object kind of thing. But it so the thing was, the version we watched, I think, was it on like we watched the Vimeo version.
It was just from...
Or maybe it was on Honor Club, I can't remember.
It's on like Ring of Honor's YouTube channel.
Yeah. But so that version didn't have the entrances.
No.
So then when I did the rewatch of it to get the work out which particular moment I was going to try to capture for the illustration, I wanted to sort of like soak it up in its full kind of glory. So I even like went into my storage room to try to find my old like ROH DVDs for this one, and I
Did you have it?
Sadly came up. I have it somewhere, but I'm pretty sure it must be in like my parents' house in a box somewhere or something like that. So alas, but then I did find a version that actually had the entrances intact, which was so cool, and it brought me a whole nother wave of nostalgia, and I forgot how much I loved those fucking grimy sheet metal sign things that they had along the guardrails, and the way everyone would like fucking bang on those things.
Yeah.
The amount of people that must have gotten like cut up and gotten like fucking staph infections and shit or like tetanus from the rust on those motherfuckers, but I don't care. It was cool as shit.
Yeah, no, there was a lot of nostalgia watching that match for me for like things like the guardrail thing, like even the commentary. When I was watching, I'm just like, I'm not even sure if this is good commentary, but I love it so much just because this was when I was like getting into Ring of Honor, or like this whole like from 2003 through 2006 was like big time for me getting into it. And so I'm just like all the Ring of Honor stuff from that era. I'm just like, I love it. I love it all so much.
Oh, for sure. And I have nothing but good things to say about this commentary. I'd say this was actually the pairing, like ROH's probably best long-term commentary pairing between Lenny Leonard and Dave Prazak. I thought they were awesome in terms of how they'd just everything about it, between the play-by-play and also getting in the history and things like that. Like that, one of the things about old retro classic ROH that the stuff that I originally started watching, that if you rewatch now, that it gives a bit of a sour taste to it, is the old ones. I'm not sure if you recall the old ones that had Gabe's commentary back in his Jimmy Bauer days.
Was that like the first year or so of it?
I want to say the first couple years. Yeah, couple years. So probably like 2002, 2003. And then I feel like they got away from it maybe around 2004-ish. But yeah, by comparison to that, this was friggin' classic commentary. But I also want to give shout out to shortly after this when they had their HD Net days. I was a big fan of, do you recall the Hog, Mike Hodgwood?
I don't know, but maybe if I heard him, but no.
Oh, so this was that was when I think they got on HD Net, and the station HD Net, I think that was owned by Mark Cuban at the time. They wanted sort of a proper sports voice to be on the commentary for their TV product side of it. So for all the HD Net tapings, they had Dave Prazak with this amazing old sports broadcaster guy who basically had no idea about what professional wrestling was. So you just got such an amazing, like, authentic, like, real reaction to it, kind of in the same magic of like Don West from classic TNA days. And like stuff like when there was something dirty going on, a guy took like a cheap win, you never heard someone more bloody outraged than the Hog. He was just like, how is this happening? This is outrageous. And he also had the classic closing line of like when the match was over, of, I'm not sure if this rings a bell, of slap the porpoise, it's over.
I don't remember that, but maybe I'll need to go back and watch matches just for the commentary from the Hog era.
Yeah, I mean, this is another thing where I think a lot of people fucking hated Mike Hodgwood's commentary because, again, he didn't really know anything about wrestling, but I mean, listen to In the Right Lens, bloody tremendous stuff. I love the Hog, so good. But anyway, that's enough of a sidetrack on that one. Back to the match. We've kind of set the table here of basically it's two bloody killers going up against one another, and the crowd all knew it, and there was just like this magic in the air of just like, holy shit, that I can't remember the last time a match like in sort of contemporary wrestling has had that kind of like feeling for me, so that was kind of really cool.
Yeah, like it's a dream match, but in that sort of small enough area where you just feel the energy of the crowd knowing that they're getting to experience something. And like, yeah, there's a lot of dream matches that do that, like in your indie things, but like these are outside of WWE, but like two of the biggest names in the world. So to do that in an arena holding however many people, like not a huge amount of people, it's like there's a lot of energy there.
It's probably like 600 fans.
Right. So yeah.
And then I think a big thing as well that I wanted to hammer home too is like, at this point, it's like it gets lost a little bit when you're rewatching it, but like from the memory of getting into those sort of early days of ROH, it had such like a vibe of being sort of like a upstart kind of like against the grain, like recreating like wrestling, like against the mainstream, like this underground kind of thing that was like so fresh and different, and like I don't know, there was like such an identity about it, like similar to, like I said in the write-up, I think, to ECW back in the day, where it was like kind of felt like there was this like revolution going on with this small pocket of like this cult of wrestling fans. ROH had that same sort of like vibe back in the day, so I think that was definitely for me part of the nostalgia as well, where you sort of remember what that kind of felt like.
Yeah.
And especially like the anticipation, man. Like, I don't know about you, but I back then was, getting these DVDs in the mail.
Yep.
And so a match would happen and you don't get to watch it for like months, and then it finally comes, and like I'd open up that little mailer envelope, and oftentimes I get it with like some they had these sweet like Noah shirts and stuff that you could get on their website, or like old ROH merch, and it would be so fucking exciting.
Yeah, and like you'd want to avoid spoilers, so you wouldn't have watched necessarily the results to the thing. So you just, because I wouldn't buy all the DVDs, but buy the ones that I'm like, oh, that's got matches on it that sound really awesome. So yeah, you'd buy the final battle, or like the final battle from next year. I think it's the one with Danielson Kenta. It's like, I don't know who wins this match, but it's Danielson Kenta. Like, I clearly want to watch it. So you just buy that and a few other DVDs at a time. Just like, I'm in, because they. And like, if you saw it was going to be like two guys who could put on a match, it invariably would be a good match. I feel like they never let you down for that.
Yeah. I think at this time, like ROH was just known, even like within the industry, of like having such a high standard of work, to where it's like anyone there. Like sometimes you'd watch certain matches of like certain promotions around that time. Like I used to love MLW back in the day, but it was almost like a lot of the time you'd see really great guys in the ring with one another, and it just wasn't quite as good as you thought it would be. But in ROH, it's like almost they had like the pressure of like, all right, this is a big match in Ring of Honor at that time. So everyone had like their working boots on a bit more, I guess.
Yeah. I think what always contributes to like those big matches having that extra thing that makes them awesome is often the crowd with them. And again, because you've got that small crowd who was super into it. And I was sort of a bit worried, thinking like in older wrestling crowds, sometimes they can feel like they're maybe a bit obnoxious, a bit, oh, we're too smart. But like the crowd here, not at all. Like they're just genuinely into this really awesome match. And so like that always elevates a match when you've just got that crowd being so into it.
Yeah. I mean, it just brought it to the next level when you have a crowd that's like knows they're going to see something special and are there for it and are reacting in like an authentic kind of way for it. A big thing that stood out to me as well, so with some of these changes of wrestling, like I was saying, sort of like with stuff now, it's so faster to consume it, and like, something happens, you watch it like either live or the next day on Fight TV or whatever. It's like so easy to get this stuff now, so it sort of takes away a bit of the anticipation a bit, but also like from a crowd perspective, I think it's almost like the crowd's gotten so like meta and trained in certain things to where a match gets into a certain gear now with current wrestling, and there's like the automatic like, this is awesome, or like fight forever. I hate the fight forever one, but all those kind of like standard trope chants, to where it's like people are doing them because it's almost like, oh yeah, this is the bit where we do that kind of thing, rather than like watching this one when there's a point like in the home stretch of this match when the "This is awesome" chant starts.
Yeah.
And it's like so much more to me like of a real one. Like you're like, yeah, this fucking is awesome. And you're like, I don't know, it just felt so much more real.
Yeah, you need to express how awesome you feel this is.
Yeah. I can't hold this in anymore. I need to tell everyone how awesome this is.
Yeah.
So onto the match itself.
See, that's why I was going to say that's why I ended up like rewatching and taking notes for this, because I didn't want to just come in and just be like, okay, we're going to talk about this match for an hour, and I'm just pretty much going to say this is awesome, this is so good for an hour. It's like no, because it was awesome and so good, but like specific stuff happened. I had to.
I mean, I guess that's good. So what specifics? What actually made it awesome for you? Like, what was the first kind of stuff that stood out to you? Just like, this was fucking great.
Like, even from the start, just appreciating how explosive Low Ki is. Like, it's been a while since I've seen a Low Ki match, and so going back to Prime Low Ki, like, there's a lot of dudes who can kick hard, but he kicked hard and fast, and it's just so explosive every time. You're just like, man, it just looks so cool and badass. And it's like, and I feel like I've listened to all of your match of the weeks and watched all of the match of the weeks, and every time I watch the match and it ends up being there's one guy in the match who really impresses me. Like, they're both great wrestlers, but there's always one guy who I'm just like, oh, I forgot how good this guy was. Last week it was Romero, or the week before. Yeah. But this one, it's like, I love Low Ki and I love KENTA, but Low Ki in this match, I'm just like, man, Low Ki was good.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for the loyalty there, for watching everyone, listen everyone. I appreciate that. But yeah, man, I think the thing about Low Ki that stood out to me on watching this, which I never really forgot about Low Ki, but just like stood out to me. It's like, even obviously, yeah, the kicks and everything, fucking like badass. His chops as well in this one.
Yeah.
I forgot how rad his chops are, but then also just like the in between those things, the way he like carries himself and does that like Low Ki kind of like walk, like he's a really fucking angry ape or something who's just like fucking out alpha mailing all the other apes in the enclosure, just from like his alpha male like walk and like presence and that whole side of it. Just like the energy that Low Ki put into everything, and the mannerisms and everything like that all kind of like, that's the ultimate stuff that I think built in to me that got across that kind of like ultimate like badass, like bad mother kind of like aura that Low Ki like just made him so special.
Yeah, and like that was one of the notes I put down for myself, was like, Low Ki, if he was like a blank creator wrestler in a video game, but he was moving like Low Ki, it's like, that's Low Ki. You don't need to, like, even without the facial expressions, just the way he moves is just so unique and like gets across his whole vibe so well. And it's not even just the like, I'm the tough guy, like he's hunched over sort of gorilla-y sort of thing when he's approaching someone like to mess him up. But like when he's bumping and selling, like even right near the start, like he does that armbar over the rope in the corner. And then when like the referee breaks it up, he sort of spring rolls out to the floor. And like, cause he can move and like roll through stuff, and it just looks so cool. And then he like stands back up into his stance looking like a badass, and just like he moves in the most unique and entertaining way.
Yeah, so good. I think the thing about Low Ki is that and this is often a thing that he would be criticized for, like more recently, by these kind of like fans that are so opposed to that Low Ki whole vibe, is that he took everything so seriously. And every little thing that he did in the ring, I think he took so seriously, and that's ultimately what like made him so great.
Yeah,
like it's the fact that he took it so seriously.
Yeah, and that adds to his character, and you can see the two character things with these two guys then, like against each other. Like Low Ki is taking it seriously all the time, and KENTA, like, he'll take it seriously sometimes, but then he'll do that dickhead stuff in between. And so like, even though they are so similar, then you get that bit of difference between them that is super entertaining. And then there's like even a spot in the match where Low Ki starts to do like the dismissive kicks to the head, And he can't keep it up for more than like 2 kicks, because then after that, it's like he just starts kicking hard again. Because he's like, no, I can't even. It feels like he's like, I'm going to try and be disrespectful like Kenta was to me, and then no, I just got to kick hard. That's clearly who I am.
Man, I love those. I can't remember where in the match it was, but that point where he like did those Kawada kicks, man, brought me so much joy.
Yeah.
So what do you got next on your list of memorable moments?
Again, just more stuff Loki was doing well, like his big double stomp out of the sunset flip.
Oh, so cool.
Like Kenta does the sunset flip to him, and instead of going all the way over, he just stomps. But again, he does it so explosively, but he still gets high on the jump. So I don't know how it happens so quickly. But like sometimes there's moves like that and you feel like, why didn't the guy just move? Like it looks like he had time. It's like not when Loki does stuff, because he's so explosive when he does it. You're just like, bam, it hits straight away. And it's like, oh yeah, no one was moving out of the way of that. The key had him.
Yeah, exactly.
And then that's the same with his other, like the big corner stomp where he does like the grind on the knee first. It's like, you buy that Kenta has to sit up, and then somehow Key jumps in the air and stomps down on him. I'm like, it's just gravity. He can't make that faster, but somehow it's still so fast and explosive.
He got so high on it too. That was the big thing.
Yeah.
I think we mentioned this when we were watching it together too. It's like just the way that was set up, I thought, made so much sense and was so much more plausible than like, I remember specifically when Alberto Del Rio was doing that top rope Tree of Woe sit up double stomp as like a finish in WWE, and the way he would set it up was so just like the opposite, just like the most implausible, like just bullshit kind of setup.
Yeah.
Where you watch this, you're just like, yeah, that makes all the sense in the world. Perfect.
Yeah, it's you feel like yelling at the screen when it's done badly. It's like, just move. He's right there. Just don't sit up. But not when Key does it. It's like, oh no, you got to get up to fix your knee that he's grinding his foot into, and then bam, you've just got 2 feet in your face.
Yeah, so great. Those stomps, man. Like, I don't think anyone in wrestling since has done like as good, or not even as good. Of course, it's not going to be as good, but like anything approaching how great Loki would do it.
Yeah.
And I love that in Japan, it's still referred to as the ghetto stomp, like on Japanese commentary when guys do a stomp, and it's like such a funny, like cross-cultural, like thing to hear, like in the midst of Japanese commentary, like ghetto stomp.
Just to keep talking about the stomps, then his top rope, like stomped her when Kenta's on the mat. That one as well. He leaps up so high, and some people you can sort of see them sort of slipping off when they hit the person. When they hit like when he hits Kenta on the mat, he could have sort of slipped off, so it looks like he's done a stomp, but he's kept it safe. But somehow Key sort of just looks like he just collapsed,
like a Devitt kind of one.
Yeah. And I mean, I get it. If you're stomping on someone 5 nights a week, you don't want to crush them. But Key's just like feels like he's putting his whole weight, and then he sort of collapses down onto it. And every version of his stomp just looks so vicious.
Another thing that I really loved about the match was sort of the tempo of it. So it was done a lot more kind of like, in a lot of ways, I thought it was a classic Noah junior heavyweight style match. Like along the veins of like what you see those classics between like Kenta and Marufuji, or Kenta and Nakajima, or was like Kanemaru back in the day, all those kind of awesome ones where it was a lot more kind of back and forth.
Yeah.
It wasn't, and I think that set it apart from what we get from a lot of American wrestling, where it's sort of like that, like following that real same formula of putting a match together every single time. So I thought it kept it really alive all the way through. There was no point where you're like, okay, this is the part where we're sitting through the heat or whatever. The whole time it was almost like the entire match was like a finishing sequence, if that makes sense.
Yeah, like it feels like you're reading my note at the moment, because like my note here is the pace is so good, the build-up never felt like filler. Like they got this finishing sort of sequence starts at some point, but like you always feel like they're trying to get to each other and they're like back and forth the whole time. It's not just like, okay, now we got to do some chain for a bit or some rest holds for a bit. It's like, no, they're trying to get each other the whole time. And even when it is a rest hold, like Key locks him in with like the body scissors, just working his abdomen at some point. It's like, but it still looks nasty. It looks like Key's trying to crush his ribs for them just laying on the mat for a minute. It's like, but it's so good.
And again, that's like low key with the seriousness, right? It's like even at a point where in other matches you'd be like, okay, this is the rest hold or whatever. For low key, there is no part of it where it's just a rest hold. He's even doing that with like an intensity.
Yeah.
And it's great that you reminded me of that, because that was one of the things I really dug about the match too, especially on like my second rewatch of it. It stood out to me, the idea of low-key working like the ribs, and yeah, when he gets like that sort of like bear hug from behind when he's like on the ground too, and then that making so much sense later on with the big stomps, and the kicks to the midsection and the ribs.
Yeah, because like, and that's where like he's done his in the match where he did the shotgun drop kick, so like, you know, straight into that midsection again, slams KENTA back into the corner, and that's after that's when he did the stomp. And I went back and I rewatched it, but then I also went back to try and work out where you did your art from, like the frame that you were using as your inspiration, and I found it. Like it was like just after that stomp, the big delay on the cover, because they're just both so exhausted by that point, because like KENTA's just been worked all the way over them, and then sort of they've gone over to the other side of the ring for the attempt for the pinfall, and then the cover after that, and then slowly getting up was your artwork, and just like in the match and in your artwork, the exhaustion you can feel from them, because they've just been beating the hell out of each other for 20-something minutes.
Yeah, I'm so glad you mentioned that, because that was the big thing, of just capturing that like just sheer sort of like exhaustion from the pace that they've been setting. But then also there was like so much that was great about it, of sort of like one of the few moments of like KENTA showing a little bit of like vulnerability, after he's just had his bell fucking rung and he's like reaching towards those ropes, and low-key kind of like rising behind him like a fucking demon. I thought that's just like such a cool kind of visual, and also like just again, like we're talking about that classic low-key kind of like posture of like this like seething kind of like dude. So that was a big part about that. But I think it's quite funny like doing a few of these match of the week illustrations now and looking for those kind of good moments. More often than not, it's the moments between the big moves than the big moves themselves that I think make the best kind of like illustrations.
Yep.
And I think that's obviously part of it. Oh man, it was actually really tricky doing it. Like it's a sort of like a bit of an artist note kind of thing, because I sort of will pause the frame to kind of like, you know, get which moment could be good reference. And with this, ROH's video production was not the best back in the day. I mean, I thought the camera work and everything was actually quite above the standards and the lighting and everything of a lot of independent wrestling from that era. But I don't know what it was about from the actual video editing side of it, but there's a weird thing where anytime you like pause it where there's some movement going on, there's all these like weird horizontal lines through the through the picture. And I don't know whether this was like them, you know, cheaping out on doing like long play or something on like the video editing when they're like putting it on the DVDs or something like that. But it made it quite challenging. So any still frame that I'll get that had any sort of movement was so like disfigured by all of this, like these weird static horizontal lines that came in when you freeze frame it. So it sort of made me more have to lean towards the moments that had less movement. But I think that was for the best, because I was really happy with that one when I sort of like got to it, and it was sort of like, oh yeah, that is the moment. But yeah, there is a lot with I look back at these match of the weeks of just dudes looking real tired and selling, I think.
But I'm sort of on your Instagram page now. I'm sort of having a look at some of them. The thing is, when you've got those ones where they're tired and you've got that sort of not rest moment, but the moment between the big moves, like they're the ones where you tend to get like those levels in your artwork where you've got someone right in the foreground and then you've got like the person behind them and the crowd behind that. So you got that real depth to the art, which looks awesome.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Whereas like with your moves where they're actually hitting each other, like those guys are then probably be on the same plane of your art. So it's like it's going to have less depth, even if the artwork and the move looks cool. It's it's going to be a different sort of feel to the artwork.
Yeah, for sure. I think it conveys a certain element of drama and sort of having that bit of dimension to it, and like the foreground, background, or whatever kind of thing. But yeah, it's funny because you watch a match like this, and your big memory of it is like, oh yeah, they just like both kicked each other real hard. So it'd be sort of like the standard thing to be like, oh yeah, so like you definitely would have a moment of like either of them like kicking one another like real hard.
Yeah.
But even that, when we're thinking about sort of the angle that the camera's capturing that from, a lot of the time I found, because I was like going through and I did take a few screenshots of some of those kicking kind of like exchanges. And it's like, I don't know what it is about the process of the kick, but most of the time you're just seeing a dude's like back, and like you're not even really seeing the guy's face very much who's like taking it a lot of the time. So that sort of makes it a little bit more challenging too. I think I generally try to pick moments where you can sort of like capture the dude's faces and capture like the emotion of the match a little bit more. But yeah, it's kind of interesting stuff when you break it down. I'm glad we got to sort of talk a bit more about this side of it. It colours a bit more of like the wrestling art element of what this podcast is meant to be.
But like even with that, like when you're saying with the kicks, as I was saying earlier, what's really cool about their kicks is how explosive they are. It's like you can't get that in a still image. Like you can show the impact so you know how hard it hit. You can get that in the image, but like that movement and explosiveness, like that's just the way they move. You wouldn't necessarily be able to capture that. So yeah, getting that drama and the looks on their faces is much more important, I think, for this match.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there was one moment talking about sort of like strike exchanges and the whole like stiff thing of this match and like dudes laying it in, which was kind of a big part of the appeal. Obviously, there was an amazing like getting down to that finishing stretch. I think their last strike exchange actually was the slap exchange, the forearm palm strikes, not forearm, but yeah, palm strikes. And man, it was so good. Like, I mean, that to me, looking back at all the KENTA matches I love, I think that's always the best part, like getting down to that sweet like exchanges of palm strikes and like ducking one and coming back with two and all that kind of stuff.
It was, and when they were exchanging there, and it was just KENTA like quickly, like barely perceivably throwing up his left arm to guard one. And then hitting Key with, I don't remember what he hit him with straight after that, but like that was the thing that stopped the exchange, was just this quick guard. So Key was caught off guard, and then it nailed him, and it was awesome.
Another bit, it was like, I can't remember the exact moment, but similar, KENTA always hits those sweet like spinning back kicks, those TNA kicks, as we used to call them. Which another thing I feel has been lost to the sands of time. I can't remember the last time I saw a sweet TNA kick in current wrestling. Bring them back, please.
So that's all I would be doing. I can't kick as high anymore, so if I came back and just be TNA kicks, run off the ropes, another sort of kick.
But the way KENTA landed this one, where he just like fucking gets him, and you see like low key kind of like crumple from the impact of it, like not like kind of the opposite of I guess how we would refer to some of those TNA kicks that are just like part of a sequence kind of thing, or to set something else up. This is like a spinning back kick that is meant to fuck your life up. Yeah.
That reminds me of one from a different match, but no, we're talking about this match. But
Naoki Sano, or Takuma Sano as he was known back in the day in Noah, master of the TNA kick. If you ever want to see that done with just the most assholeness possible, I'm pretty sure that must have been who KENTA got it from. So good.
Yeah. I think we've talked about almost everything except for like the final bit of the match.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, I think the finishing sequence I wanted to make sure to make mention of in that was, again, I guess we mentioned it earlier when that "This Is Awesome" chant kind of like came in, but it's just like when you get a proper great, like tippy top level, like all time kind of great wrestling match, there's a point where it just kind of like clicks into that like hyper overdrive kind of like thing, and you're just watching it and you're just like, man, this is like fucking magical. And that was the feeling that I got, like when, like you thought, like, oh yeah, this has been like such great stuff, but then somehow it turned it up another level. Man, I can't even remember what it was specifically. You might have some notes, but that just in general, that whole like finishing, I want to say like 3 minutes of the match was like some of the best professional wrestling you'll ever see.
Yeah, it was. I don't remember when this is awesome champ started, but yeah, it could have been anywhere in those last few minutes where it's just like, it's overwhelming how awesome this has got.
And I don't think there's anything wrong with us just like continually saying on this podcast, this was fucking awesome, because it was.
It was. And so then the final part of the match, for anyone who hasn't watched it, like go watch it. It's free on YouTube. But like the final part is KENTA hitting the go to sleep, right? Which like we've been since conditioned to learn that like that's his finisher, so that was probably the end. But back then it wasn't. He still had the Psycho knee, so he's hit the go to sleep, and then you just see him wait for a second until he's sort of standing, then run off the ropes and just nail him with that knee. And it's such a vicious and cool looking move when he could still do it. Like I feel like it's got to be a hard move to do because you need to have that high vertical leap and be able to tuck that knee all the way up. But then when it hits someone in the head like that, and you're just like, yeah, okay, so obviously you've killed them. So yes, you won your match.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely love Danielson, of course. And he's, since sort of like, so many people borrowed stuff from Loki over the years from, I mean, not Loki, from KENTA. But that, like the way that he hit the Bisaku knee at this point was just like, no one will ever do it that cool.
Yeah.
Then neither him. Like it's a sad thing, like what you're saying, sort of about like that was one of the things watching this was like how much KENTA's offense at this point was based on I guess that high energy kind of like a lot of like big fast kind of movements. There's a word I'm looking for here that's just not coming to me.
The athleticism,
I guess, general athleticism, but also sort of like explosiveness is the word that I'm looking for, and it's sort of that level to where that is the thing that goes first as you get older. Like you can keep certain things, but you lose that like fast-paced explosiveness. So I do respect a lot how KENTA has adapted his style over the years, and I still honestly think he's an amazing wrestler and still has like awesome matches. Like he had a fantastic one, his big return to Noah early this year on their big Budokan show. But yeah, watching him in his prime like this is like such a treat.
Yeah. And like this happened earlier in the match, but even just like he goes to do his springboard back in the ring. So he springs up onto the ropes and then does his big drop kick. And he just springs so much. Like he's somehow super bouncy. It was like KENTA can't do that anymore. But back then, like he would do it so quickly and so explosively. You're just like, it's fantastic.
Yeah. Oh, dude, he's like jumping like clothesline off the top as well. He always would get like so high on that. Oh, man. So great. This was fantastic, everybody. Again, like Brad said, if you haven't already seen it, bloody watch this match, because I think this might be a big call, but I reckon this may be my favorite match in Ring of Honor history. And I can't believe that it didn't get 5 star. I mean, I don't want to debate Dave Meltzer star ratings, but to me, this is like just all-time perfect match. And I can't fathom, it not meeting what today is sort of seen as the 5-star criteria. But I don't want to get into that stuff.
Yeah, I like what. There's nothing that can be changed or fixed in it. It's a perfect match.
Yeah. I think that is the great way to sum this up. This was a perfect match, and yeah, it so got me back into. I think the nostalgia of it was like had a big impact because it got me so like back into that vibe of like the 2000s indie kind of wrestling. So now because this is coming out a day later, we can tell people this next match of the week is Super Dragon and El Generico. We won't talk too much about it because that's what next week's episode is going to be. But this one totally created that, like, it reignited that love for this era of wrestling for me. So I don't know if more match of the weeks are going to be from this time period, but man, I love early mid 2000s indie wrestling so much. Yeah,
for sure. This is when I got into it. So like it holds that nostalgia place, but also you look back and it's just so good.
Yeah, it's not just nostalgia for nostalgia's sake, and we're making out this thing that like wasn't actually that great is amazing through these rose-colored glasses. Watched in any time period, this is just a bloody perfect match.
Agreed.
So good. All right, Bradley. Well, I want to thank you very much for coming on the show today. This was a blast for me to just revel in all the stuff that I love so much, this period of ROH and everything. And I think it's cool that I get to do it with someone else who had that same kind of thing.
Well, thank you for having me on. Thank you for watching this match with me on my birthday.
Thank you for having me watch that match. Thank you for putting this back in front of my eyeballs. That illustration would not have happened had you not chosen to pick for us to watch that match.
Fantastic.
Lovely. Well, Bradley, do you have anything that you would like to plug on the way out?
I really don't. I was listening to last week's episode and I'm like, we're going to get to the plug section, and I don't post on social media, so no, not really. Go watch this match. It's on Ring of Honor's YouTube channel.
Any movie recommendations for our listeners failing that?
Godzilla -1's probably still out at cinemas. That was pretty fun.
Oh, that was fantastic. Good call.
And if you haven't watched There Will Be Blood recently, that's a good movie as well. If we're just talking about things I really like, this match, There Will Be Blood. Ooh. These are the things from the last year that I'm like, I'll revisit them, and they were awesome.
I'm definitely due for a rewatch of that because I am a big fan of Daniel Day-Lewis, and I remember that movie just being absolutely amazing. So everyone, go out of your way to watch Godzilla -1 and There Will Be Blood if you haven't already seen it. Amazing stuff. I think that actually works really well as sort of a I can't remember the word, but like a co-piece to the recent Killers of the Flower Moon.
Oh yeah. They've both got that same period setting.
Yeah. Both about oil, I guess. All right. Well, I'll a big thank you to our listeners for listening to this one. I appreciate your time. A big thank you also to the great guys at Social Suplex, keeping the lights on here, letting me do this thing, talk to my friends, just nerd out about wrestling and art and all the things. It's great. Socialsuplex.com. Bunch of other rad podcasts, mostly about wrestling. You got One Nation Radio. They got a AEW focused podcast. I think there's even a WWE focused one if you like that kind of stuff. And of course, my favorite podcast about New Japan Pro Wrestling, keeping it strong style. So check out all of that stuff. You can check out my stuff at Chris Things on Instagram and Twitter. Hear all of the news ski about this podcast, new episodes coming out, new guest announcements, but also, especially on the Instagram side of it, you can keep it up with my art. So I have the match of the weeks as we've been talking about, but I have a bunch of other stuff too. Had a sweet Big Lebowski piece that I posted the other day, and I got a lino cut print of that I'll be posting in the near future. But also christhings.com.au, where you can buy said art. So if you check out that, I got prints, I got some originals, calendars even as we approach 2024. Good time on that, I reckon. If you want a poster, a calendar rather, that has some sweet Mexican wrestlers and cowboy skeletons. I don't know who else is exploring that niche, so this might be your only calendar to do that. But christhings.com.au there, and yeah, thanks guys. I appreciate your time, and I will see you next week. Bye.
I do the hammerlock. Do the hammerlock, you turkey necks. Yeah, do the hammerlock. I do the hammerlock. Everybody's doing it. Do the eye gouge. Yeah, do the eye gouge. Do the eye gouge, you turkey necks. Yeah, do the eye gouge. I do the eye gouge. Everybody's doing it. Okay, you turkey nuts.
Alrighty. Thank you so much, Brad. That was really fun.
Thank you. Oh, good. I'm glad it's like I said, first time I've been on a podcast. I was like, I'm a little nervous. What if I got nothing to say?
I think you did great.
Thank you.
I think this will be really fun.